counting days, day after day after day. You see it in my face. I'm starting to lose it. I'm starting to feel like everything's changing. Too fast for us, too fast. But right now, shit's amazing. I'm waking up on the freeway, coming down from Los Angeles. If she could see me now, I wonder if mom would stand for this. Act my age. What does that mean anyway? I promise it's just a phase. This is just a phase. We got low lights, violet reds, really cheap wine and Vicodin. Pray up to the ceiling that we never lose this feeling. We got moon rocks on your bed. Forget about the world, let's just pretend. Pray up to the ceiling. We don't ever lose this feeling.
All right, enough of that. Let's get Reveal.js in a container today. Been messing around with this for a couple of days now, mostly just around getting the different tooling and things of that nature to work. Lots of unexpected roadblocks and that sort of thing. So no huge deal there. Basically, I was shooting to run AZ, which is the Azure command line, in a container. Okay, and that's basically what I want to do. And we ran into a couple of problems, but I talked with the CLI team and some folks, and we've kind of come up with a pretty good way of actually resolving this issue. And I'll show you that conversation. We actually had that on GitHub here, so we'll jump out to GitHub and right here you see I opened an issue, and basically right here is kind of the answer here is just jump in here and run Docker, and then actually install Docker. So you mount the socket and install Docker into the CLI container, and that should resolve our problem. Because basically what happened was we got up to the point where we created the container and we were going to go ahead and upload that into the container registry, but we never were. Well, we ran into this problem where when you try and log into the container registry using AZ, it needs Docker. So we're going to recreate a lot of steps, but first we're going to make sure that this works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to jump back to the command line here. Now we want to actually modify this in to do a couple of other things. First off, I want to keep this one around, so I'm going to daemonize it, and then I want to mount my home directory as well. So we will just say do the home variable, and we're going to mount that into user. All right, and then lastly, or also, let's do name as Azure. Okay, so now when we run that, it should go out, pull this image down, and start that. So while that's running, let's hop back over here and let's go to open up Reveal.js. Let's go to the Reveal.js GitHub page. And I'm going to go ahead and just clone this, maybe. All right, there we go. And Let's see how this is still running. Okay, so basically what we want to do is we want to clone this, um, add this into my, because I'm going to actually use this. I'm not going to build the talk today, but I'm going to build how I'm going to present today. And I think this is a pretty cool little demo in and of itself. I keep all my talks in this organization over here called TDR talks, tripped up root talks by me, basically. So we're going to need a new repo, and this I'm keynoting at DogFoodCon coming up. So let's actually go out to DogFoodCon, and this will be the emerging technologies keynote that I give. So we'll just go right to speakers. And jump in here. It's my ugly mug. Go to the talk. And that's kind of the name of it and everything. So let me just grab that real quick. And in this repository, drop that in, and we'll call this emerging. Here, yeah, there we go. We'll call it emerging technologies. And I'm going to initialize this as an empty repository. So no get ignores, no licenses. We're going to make it public, no readme, all that good stuff. So just hit create repository, and that gives you all of this. Now, important thing here is this clone location. So we'll grab that in a second. Here, let's go back and see if my container is running. PS, okay, looks like we do actually have my container running. So let's go ahead and attach to it. Docker attach Azure, because that's the name of it over here. So jump in, and let's just list my user directory, and that's everything that's available to me on my local machine. Now, the other thing that we actually need to do here is say apk install Docker, right? Add apk add Docker. All right, so that should go out and install Docker. And I believe that's all we actually need to do to get Docker running in AZ. And then, of course, we have the container registry and already created, so I'm not going to go ahead and redo that, but I am going to go ahead and recreate the container, and then we'll upload it to the container registry, and then we'll run it in Azure Container Instance as an Azure Container Instance. Then we're going to have to figure out kind of how to do some of that stuff. So actually, let's go to Azure Container Instances there and jump in. And we're basically just kind of following along the docs here out at docs.microsoft.com. So just go into the tutorials, and basically this is kind of where we are. Well, we're going to create a container image, and then we're going to come in here and basically pick up about right here where it says container registry login. And then we'll go on from there and actually deploy the app into that. So let's come back and make sure that this is all done. So now if I run Docker version, you'll see that the client version, so the Docker binary in the container right now is at 1.11, and I have my 17.9 community edition daemon mounted into the container via the socket. So looks like everything's good. The other thing that we'll need to do is go ahead and say AZ login, or let's go ahead and say AZ configure, because typically what happens here is AZ outputs JSON, and that's just not very readable. So what I want to do is I want to switch that up to table here. So we'll just say 3. I don't want to enable logging. Ensure you can collect information about me. And now the next thing we're going to do, of course, is just AZ login. Now that we're grab this code and hop back over here and go to aka.ms/device login. And this will allow me to log in. Continue. And looks like it's going to legitimately make me log in. So we're just kind of waiting for the multi-factor authentication to fire off on my phone over here. And there it goes. So I should be able to authenticate on my phone, and then we should see this fire off here in a second. Okay, and now we're just waiting on AZ login to complete, and we will have a functioning AZ container that should do everything we need it to do. Cross our fingers. All right, there we go. So AZ ACR list should give us a list of our container registries, and we're using that second one there in the list, iptemp pres 01 is really kind of what we want to go. So if we do az acr login -- name iptemp pres 01, we should actually get a login completed now. Okay, or login successful. Perfect. So if I hit Control PQ, that actually detaches me from that container, leaves it running, right? So it's still sitting there running, and I'm back on my host machine here, which is kind of, I think, where we want to be. So let's pop back over and have a look at this. Now, basically, we need Reveal.js downloaded onto my machine here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to clone this down into my, let's create a pres directory here, actually. And then we'll cd into pres. Okay, and there's nothing in here. So now we'll say git clone Control Shift B, and I'm going to clone this into, let's call this the emerging tech. Did I spell that right? MERG. Yep, looks good. So that should go ahead and clone Reveal.js down. Now Reveal.js is pretty handy. It's basically a framework written in JavaScript for creating presentations that you can host online. And then you can export them to PDF, all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it's a very useful tool for presenting, especially when you're on a Fedora box like mine. And essentially, you know, I could host it locally and just run it that way. But by containerizing it, it gives me the ability to not only host it locally, but also to just stick it in a container in Azure and be able to create a short link for everyone to access it from their phones or wherever they want to going forward. So makes it very useful, very useful that way. So now that I have this down, essentially what I want to do is I want to push it up into this repo as it stands now. Because remember, we're not really changing anything at the moment. So to do that, I went ahead and copied that, and let's hop into the emerging tech location, and in Git, basically it's probably wired up right now to point at as origin up to its default location where we cloned it from. What I want to do is I want to say git remote remove origin, right? So now when we look, there are no remotes. And now I want to say git add, git remote add origin, and paste in my location here at TDR Talks. Okay, so now that that is added, we should be able to take a look and see, okay, now I have a fetch and pull for my remote from this local. So anything that I do here will actually go up to my remote now. So if I say git push, I got to tell it to go ahead and push to this new origin. and we'll just push it as master. Okay. So that's going ahead and taking my local copy of Reveal.js and pushing it up into that into this here. So if I actually refresh this page, you'll see that okay, now it's there. This is what I want. And let's make one minor change just so we know what this is all about. What we're going to do is we're going to come back in here and grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and just open this up in Visual Studio Code and bring that on the screen here. And basically, really all we want to do is just change this README here. So we'll just remove everything, drop a title in, and then we'll put the abstract in as, you know, just the text on the README page. Whoop. Ah, jeez. Okay, so README should be good. So if we come back in here and say get status, you'll see that, okay, yep. So we'll just git add, git commit, updated README, right? And we'll just push that up there, make sure everything's working exactly like we want it to be. I believe it is, so we'll pop over here and come back to the talk and hit refresh. Okay, cool. So got the repo basically looking like what I want it to look like. Now, what we want to do is add this into or create a container image, which will require us to actually create a Docker file in here, right? So Docker file. And I'm going to host this in Nginx, okay? And let's hop over here to another one of my repos, because I already have this, and this is pretty standard Docker file here. And I think I have it here in Pixel Playoffs under the Playoff app. We have a Docker file, and I'll just grab the raw version of that and drop it in. Here, just take a quick look at this. Just uses one Nginx 1.11.10. It's probably old. We could go out and update that, but we're using the Alpine version, so it's really trim and small. Basically, we're setting the working directory to the HTML directory in Nginx, and then copying all of this files right here over to that directory. It's basically all we're doing, and then now Nginx will be hosting Reveal.js for us. So we want to go ahead and just test this. Let's test it locally first before we push it up to the container registry and actually deploy it to Azure Container Instance. So to test this locally, pretty straightforward. We'll run Docker. We're in this. Let's get status. So yeah, so Docker file, we added that. But basically what we want to do is say Docker build -t for tagging this with a name. And then we're going to go ahead and tag this with, let's call it merging tech. I like it, right? And then dot, and that period is saying, hey, look in the current directory for the Docker file. So it uses a bit of convention to look for that Docker file, and it goes out and builds it. So now if we say Docker images, we should see emerging tech there right at the top. I can say Docker run dash itd, and we're going to open port 80, point that at the container port 80, and then we'll just say emerging tech, right? And now if we look at Docker, we see that Blissful Herman is truly running, and it's routing port 80 to 80. So now if we are to come back to Firefox and go to our local host, we should see that in fact we have Reveal.js running in a container locally on our machine. Okay, pretty simple. Pretty simple. So we'll say Docker rm v1 for container ID v1, keep it short, --force because it's running. So we went and basically just removed that, deleted that image because we know it works and we're good. Now what we want to do is actually upload that emerging tech image to the registry. Now to do that, our walkthrough here kind of walks us through that, where we can log in and then basically get the name of that, get our login server, and then make sure we tag it correctly, and then we'll push that up to the registry. So let's run through that real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and we'll say Docker attach Azure. So now we're back in the Azure container, and basically we want to run this command here, show name queried by login server. Okay, so we'll come in and say az acr list. So we get the name az acr show name and query. Okay, so -- name IP temp, and then query and login server. How did they capitalize that? Okay, so it is a capital S. Cool. I'm not doing the output to table. That's not great output. Maybe we should do output table. Let's see what that does. Nothing. Well, I don't know why that's failing, but that's really what we need right there. So I'm just going to grab that and come in here, and it says, okay, Docker tag the emerging tech image with this image. Okay, so we'll do that. So Docker tag emerging tech with what has happened? Docker tag emerging tech. Oh man, I know what happened. I didn't copy and paste correctly. So we will az acr list. There we go. And we want this login server. Copy. Okay, now Docker tag emerging tech image with this / emerging tech :v1. Okay. Now if we take a look at our images, we should see at the top there that we have actually tagged it what we want. It's the same image. Everything looks good. Now if we come in and take a look here, we can say, okay, let's go ahead and Docker push this up. Okay, so this should be pretty straightforward here. Docker push, and let's go ahead and push this right here. Okay, so it's pushing my image up to the container registry. And basically after that, we're just going to use repository list to see what's in there. Okay, so should be pretty straightforward. AZACR repository list name temp IP pres 01. Maybe it's not temp IP. What was it? AZACR list. It's IP temp. Okay. IP temp. Okay, there we go. All right, so we see that that image is actually uploaded. All right. Now what we want to do is actually deploy that app, right? Pop up, deploy the app. So we'll come in and deploy the app. We've got our login server already done. We're already logged into it. But it looks like we might actually need that right here. So when we go to do a container create, we're gonna give it a name of pres, something like that. And then we need our login server, and we'll give it CPU, memory, and then we need the registry password, put it publicly, and make sure it's in the right resource group. Now, what is my resource group? Let's start there. AZ group list. Okay, and that is probably temp pres is what I think resource group we're working with right now. And then we also want the name of the server again, so we'll say AZACR list. So we have the name of the server, login server right there. Okay, and then what else? They wanted us to run this credentials. Let's just copy that, make it nice and easy for us. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm swapping between different copy and paste key combinations here. So paste, and we want to do IP temp pres 01, right? So that gives us this crazy password. All good stuff right there. I will be deleting this afterwards so that that password doesn't remain around. Okay, so now we actually want to build this out. Let's build this query out. And I want to do that in like Notepad or something, right? Text editor here. Okay, so basically we're going to call this name merging tech, and we have emerging tech here, and our login server we had right here. So, okay, so that should be good. And then we need our registry password right here. And where's that registry password? Okay. And we'll drop that in there. IP address public, and then my resource group. What was the resource group name? We said temp pres, right? Okay. So temp pres. Okay. So that should create a container using our image we just created. Let's look at it one more time. AZ container create, name, emerging tech, image, CPU, memory, registry password, IP address is public, and then the resource group. So let's go ahead and run that. And hopefully everything works great. No, it does not. Emerging tech, container name. It does not like that container name. Surprise, 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 right? Okay, no big deal. We'll just run it without the underscore. And, ooh, okay. Table output option. Use the query option, blah, blah, blah. What? I don't see anything. Oh, I wonder, AZ container list. Yeah, I think maybe it did actually work. Yeah, see, there it did. It did work. So it's running right here at 13. Okay, so let's come over here back to our browser, drop that in there, and voila! What? That's dope. That's dope. So now we have Reveal.js running in Azure container instances, and pretty straightforward. Probably would want to automate some of that with some scripts or something as I go along, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign off now. Had a good time doing this, but I need to actually build the presentation now. So talk to you later.